Bigfoot chased me and my friend while hiking for one entire night, and I am the only one who walked out alive. For years, I have told everyone the same lie about what happened to my best friend out there, but the truth is far darker than I want to admit. Tonight, I am finally telling the brutal reality about why Bigfoot was really chasing us, and what he did to my best friend to make this the last hike of his life. My name is Wes, and 11 years ago, I walked into the dark divide with the closest friend I ever had, and came out alone 3 days later, 40 miles from where we started, and I have been lying about what happened in the night in between ever since. The Dark Divide is one of the last big roadless places left in the country, 100 square miles of old growth and blowdown in the Gifford-Pinchot forest where the trails give out and the maps stop meaning much. And the people who know that country know it is the kind of place you do not say the word Bigfoot out loud in, because everyone who spends real time back there was a reason not to. Danny and I had been hiking together since we were kids. I am going to tell you exactly what Bigfoot did to the two of us out there, and exactly what I did back, because I am done carrying the version I made up. So please stay with all of it, because the part that matters is not the part you think it is. We saw it before the sun was even down, and that is the thing nobody believes. Because Bigfoot is supposed to be the thing you catch a smear of at the edge of a photo, not the thing that steps out into a huckleberry meadow in good evening light and stands there letting you look at it. We were dropping our packs to make camp when Danny went dead quiet and touched my arm, and I followed his eyes across the meadow to the tree line, and there it was, 9 feet of it. Easy, dark and broad and utterly still, standing at the edge of the timber, maybe 80 yards off, not crouched, not hiding, just standing with its long arms hanging and its face pointed straight at us. Bigfoot did not move. It did not make a sound. It watched us the way you watch something you have already made up your mind about, and every instinct I had told me the one thing not to do was run, because you do not run from a thing that is calm. Here is what I need you to understand about those first few minutes, because it turned out to be the whole key to the night. Bigfoot was not stalking us. Stalking is what something does when it is afraid you might get away. This thing had no fear in it at all. It stood out in the open where we could see every inch of it, in the last good light, and it let us pack our terror up in real time. And when Danny finally said in a shaking whisper that we should go slow, back the way we came, Bigfoot only turned its head and tracked us leaving without taking a single step to follow. I remember the flood of relief, thinking we had read it right, thinking it was letting us go. I know now that Bigfoot was not letting us go. It was letting us start. There is a difference between those two things, and I would spend the entire night learning exactly what it was. We did not make it 15 minutes before the light was gone and the trouble started. It goes full dark fast under old growth, and we had our headlamps on, and we were moving quick down the drainage toward where we thought the trail waited. And behind us, back in the black, something huge was moving too. Not running, walking. I could hear it in the blowdown, the deliberate crack and pause of enormous weight set down with care, always behind us, never once hurrying to close the gap. Danny kept asking me if I could hear it, and I kept telling him to keep moving, and the whole time, Bigfoot stayed back there in the dark, matching US stride for stride, and I told myself that as long as it stayed back there, we were fine. That was the second lie I told that night. The first one I am still working my way toward. It took Danny at the creek crossing, and it did not do it fast, and it did not do it kindly, and I owe him the truth about that after 11 years of telling people it was over before he knew. It came out of the dark on his side in one surge and had him off his feet before he finished turning, an enormous hand closing around his leg, and it swung him upside down into my headlamp beam and held him there. Then it went to work on him the way you break apart something you are in no hurry with, slow and deliberate, and I heard his leg give, and then something deeper in his back, and Danny was screaming the whole time, screaming my name, begging me the way you only beg the one person you are sure will never leave you. And here is the thing I have never told a living soul, the thing this whole confession is really about. Bigfoot never once looked at me. It had Danny, and it stopped there in the dark to take its time with him, and it left me standing on the far side of that creek with a clear black forest at my back and nothing at all between me and running. Bigfoot gave me that opening on purpose, with Danny still alive and calling my name into the dark, and I have spent 11 years knowing exactly what I did with it. So I ran. I will say it plainly now, even though it took me 11 years to say it at all. I ran while Danny was still alive and screaming my name behind me, and I did not go back, and I ran anyway, flat out, branches laying my face open until my lungs quit, and I folded over and was sick against a tree. And it was in that silence, bent over and heaving, that I heard the thing that rearranged everything I thought was happening. Footsteps behind me. Slow, unhurried. Bigfoot was coming, but it was not coming fast. It was not running me down the way every part of me expected a thing that size to. It was walking, at the exact pace of something that knows the chase is already decided, and it is only a matter of covering the ground. I had left my best friend to buy myself a head start, and Bigfoot had handed me that head start, and now it was strolling after me, through the timber like the two of us had all the time in the world. The first true horror of the long part of that night was learning I could not make the distance any bigger. I ran again until I dropped, and when I stopped to listen, the footsteps stopped a beat after mine, and they were exactly as far back as before, that same 100 feet or so, close enough to hear and too far to see past the edge of my headlamp. I walked, and Bigfoot walked. I sprinted until I fell, and when I hauled myself up and listened, it was still that same 100 feet back, not breathing hard, not hurrying, having covered the identical brutal ground I had at a cost that was clearly nothing to it. You cannot know what that does to a person until it happens to you, to pour every last thing you have into opening a gap and then turn and find the gap has not changed by a single foot. It was the first time I asked the question that would eat the rest of the night alive. If Bigfoot could stay that close that easily, then why was it staying back there at all? Why not just take me the way it had taken Danny? The clouds broke once, a little after that, and I got the look I have never been able to unsee. The moon came through for maybe a minute and laid the drainage out in cold silver, and I made myself turn around and face the thing behind me. And there it was, in plain light, closer than it had sounded, standing perfectly still between two cedars with the moon full on it. I saw all of it, the dark matted fur hanging in wet ropes off its arms, the shoulders wider than a doorway, the face that was almost a man's face and not a man's face at all, watching me with a flat and patient attention that had no bottom to it. Bigfoot was not panting. It was not spring. It stood there and let the moonlight give me the clearest look I would ever have, the way it had let us look in the meadow, and I understood that being allowed to see it was not a mistake on its part. It wanted me to know exactly what was walking me through the dark. Then the cloud closed over the moon, and Bigfoot was just a sound again. But in that 1 minute of light I had seen one more thing that I did not understand until much later. It was not looking at me the way a hunter looks at the animal in front of it. It was looking past me, up the drainage, at the black climb behind my shoulder, the way a man looks at a road he already knows the end of. Even then, Bigfoot was not seeing prey. It was seeing how far we still had to go. Somewhere in the first few hours, I tried to simply wait it out. I found the root wad of a toppled cedar, a wall of dirt and torn roots taller than I am, and I put my back against it and killed my headlamp and made myself as small and silent as a person can be, thinking maybe Bigfoot hunted by movement. Maybe if I stopped existing for long enough, it would lose the thread of me and drift off. I sat in total blackness for what my watch later told me was almost an hour, and Bigfoot sat down too. I heard it settle out there, the heavy sound of something enormous lowering itself to the ground to wait. Close enough that once or twice I heard it breathe, a slow, deep sound with no worry anywhere in it. It was not searching for me. It knew precisely where I was. Bigfoot was resting because I was resting, saving itself for whatever it knew was still ahead of us both, and when I finally could not bear the stillness one more second and rose to move, I heard it rise up behind me and come on again, as patient as it had been at the very start. My headlamp began to die around the darkest part of the night, the beam sliding from white to a weak brown, and the cold came up out of the ground and into my hands until they were slow and stupid. I was running out of every resource a person has except the will to put one foot down. And Bigfoot had spent the whole night 100 feet back, never cold, never tired, never fumbling, a thing built for exactly this while I came apart one system at a time. That is the cruelty of how Bigfoot does it. It does not have to beat you, it only has to outlast you, and it has never once in its life been the thing that runs out first. I tried my phone once, crouched behind a log with my hand cupped over the screen to smother the glow. No signal, of course, 40 miles deep, with a wall of ridges between me and any tower. It was not really a signal I was reaching for so much as the world, and the dead little screen took even that away. I never took it out again, because the light of it in that dark felt like ringing a dinner bell for the thing behind me. Nobody was coming. Nobody even knew we had left the trail. It was me and Bigfoot and the dark and however many hours were left in it, and that was the entire world now. Then I started to feel the shape of it. I was not just running blind anymore. I was trying to think, trying to steer for the river, because I knew that if I could only find the water, I could follow it down and out to the road, no matter how turned around I had gotten. So every time the ground gave me a choice, I took the way that felt like downhill, the way that felt like water. And every single time, within a few minutes, I would find Bigfoot, not behind me, ahead of me, standing off at the very edge of my dying headlamp, in the exact direction I was trying to go, not lunging, not blocking me outright, only being there, and I would feel my whole body peel away from it without deciding to, the way you flinch back from the lip of a drop. Bigfoot never once chased me off a route. It just stood on the route until I chose another, and every other route bent me the same way, uphill, away from the water, and it took me hours to make myself admit that Bigfoot had not been following me at all. It had been aiming at me, steering me the way you move a spooked animal into a chute, not by driving it, but by quietly closing every door except the one it was always meant to take. There was one moment I could not stand the steering any longer, and I called its bluff. I put my head down and broke hard downhill, straight at the gap where I was certain the river had to be, straight at the dark shape standing in my way, betting everything that it would sooner step aside than close with me. That is the only time the whole night that Bigfoot moved fast. I never even saw it cross the ground. There was a sound like the world tearing and a standing hemlock as thick through as my body came down across my path in an explosion of splinters and bark, dropped or shoved or torn loose. I will never know which. Close enough that the wind of it knocked me flat and a broken branch laid my scalp open to the bone. By the time I got my eyes clear, Bigfoot was already back at its patient distance, still and quiet, as though it had never moved at all. It had let me see for half a second the speed it had been holding back the entire night, and it had spent that half second not on catching me, but on closing one more door. And that is the thing that finally broke something loose in me. Bigfoot was not slow. Bigfoot was choosing every slow second of this on purpose, and it could stop choosing me the instant it wanted to. Somewhere in the small hours, Bigfoot showed me what all the patience was for. I had stopped at the edge of a little meadow to breathe, and out in the middle of it a bull elk had come to graze, unaware of me or of the thing behind me. And for the first time all night, Bigfoot left my back and went to the elk instead. It did not rush. It walked up on that animal the same unhurried way it had walked behind me for hours, and the elk did not break until far too late. And what Bigfoot did to it then, I heard more than saw. A wet folding sound and a ball that stopped in the middle of itself. Then it came back. It settled into its place behind me and took the walk up again as though nothing had happened, and I understood the demonstration for exactly what it was. Bigfoot had wanted me to see that. It had wanted me to watch how the walking ends, to learn in my body what was waiting at the far side of all this patience, and then it folded me right back into the same slow march toward my own version of that sound. It was not sparing me, it was saving me for last. Around what I think was the middle of the night, I broke the way anybody breaks. I stopped in a little clearing, and I turned, and I screamed at it. I grabbed rocks and a broken limb, and I hurled them out into the dark where I knew it stood, and I screamed for it to come on, to just do it, to quit walking behind me like something out of a nightmare and finish what it had started with Danny. And Bigfoot did not react at all. No roar, no charge, not so much as one shifted footstep. The rocks sailed out into the black and nothing answered them. It absorbed everything I had and gave nothing back because nothing I did mattered to it in the slightest. And that turned out to be more frightening than any charge could have been. You can be afraid of a monster that wants to tear you open. It is a colder and lonelier fear to understand that Bigfoot was not angry with me, was not hungry in any way I would recognize, was simply walking me somewhere and would outwait any tantrum I threw because it had done this many times before and already knew exactly how the night ended. There was another moment, later, when Bigfoot let me feel how easily it could end the whole thing whenever it chose. I had stopped to work a stone out of my boot, down on one knee, with the headlamp off to save what was left of it, and I did not hear it close the gap, which is its own kind of horror when you have heard every step for hours. One moment the dark behind me was 100 feet deep, and the next there was heat on the back of my neck, the warmth of something enormous standing directly over me, close enough that its breath stirred my hair, close enough to have closed one hand around my entire head. I did not move. I could not. I knelt there and felt Bigfoot lean down over me in the dark, taking its time, letting me learn in my body what my mind kept refusing, that the distance all night had never once been a distance it could not cross. It was a distance it was choosing. Then it straightened up and stepped back to its 100 feet and waited for me to walk on, because it was not done with the walking yet. And that was the moment I finally understood the walking was the entire point. It could have taken me at the meadow. It could have taken me at the creek instead of Danny. It could have taken me 100 times over in the hours since, and it had chosen every single time to stand back up and keep me moving, and a thing does not spend a whole night refusing an easy kill unless the kill was never the part it wanted. There was a stretch not long after where I heard Bigfoot doing something behind me in the dark that I could not explain and did not want to. A heavy dragging and shifting, the sound of it moving something large along with itself as it came. It would set something down when I stopped and take it up again when I moved, and my exhausted mind kept sliding away from what the something had to be and kept refusing to connect it to the friend I had left screaming at a creek hours before. I know now what Bigfoot was carrying up that mountain behind me. At the time, I only knew that whatever it was, it meant Bigfoot had not left anything behind at that creek, that it had collected all of it and was bringing all of it along, and that wherever this ended, it intended for everything to arrive there together. I understand now that this is the part that should frighten you most about how Bigfoot does this. It does not take you in a rage and leave you where you fall. It gathers you up, all of you, your friend and your gear and the last of your hope, and carries the whole of it to one place on purpose. Because to Bigfoot, the taking was never the end of anything. The taking was only the start of the walk. That was when the question flipped over into something far worse. All night I had been asking why Bigfoot would not take me. Now I knew it could take me any second it wanted, which meant the walking was not failing to catch me. The walking was the thing itself, and that meant it was walking me towards something. There was a place it wanted me to be. I could feel the country changing under my boots as the hours ground down, the ground tilting steadily up, the big timber thinning out, the soft duff giving way to broken rock, and every time I tried to angle back down into the trees where I felt safer, Bigfoot was there in the dark to bend me up again. It was climbing me. Whatever Bigfoot was walking me toward, it was up, above the forest, out in the open, and it wanted me there, and it wanted me there on my own 2 feet, and the higher we went, the more certain I became that I did not ever want to arrive. It was on that climb, in the last of my brown headlamp light, that I passed the first of the things I would not understand until the top. A boot, old and split and curled hard, sitting upright in the brush beside the faint track I was being steered along. Then a strap of rotted nylon snagged in a huckleberry bush. Then something pale I told myself was a root, and did not let my light rest on. I was too far gone by then to put it together, too focused on the next step and the thing at my back, and Bigfoot let me walk right past all of it without a sound, the way you let a child walk past a thing they are not ready to see yet. It had shown me the meadow and the moonlight when it wanted me to understand, and it kept these quiet because these were the answers, and Bigfoot was saving the answer for the top. And then, ahead of me, the sky began to go gray, and God help me, I let myself hope. You have to understand what a night like that does to the inside of your head. I had one idea left holding me upright, one animal certainty, that if I could just last until the sun came up, I would be all right. Because whatever else was true in the world, monsters belong to the dark, and Bigfoot had walked me through the dark all night, and the light would drive it back into the timber the way light is supposed to. I could see the trees thinning ahead into the open sky. I told myself the open was the top, and the top meant morning, and morning meant it was finally over. I actually started to move faster toward that pale open ground, and behind me, Bigfoot let me speed up, did not crowd me, did not turn me, and for the first time all night, it felt like the two of us wanted the very same thing. That should have told me everything. Bigfoot was not walking me toward the light because the light would save me. It was walking me to the light because the light was the place it had been taking me all along. Everything I thought I knew, that the dark is when you should be afraid, and the morning is when you are safe, Bigfoot had turned upside down and used against me, and it had done it so gently, letting me run toward my own ending with the last of my strength, that I sped up to get there. At the very end, it did not have to make me do a single thing. It only had to let me. Before I tell you what was up there, I have to give you the truth I have hidden for 11 years, because the two things are one thing. When people asked, and they did ask, for years, I told them Danny died quickly at that creek, and there was nothing I could have done, that it was on us before we knew, and I barely got clear myself. That is the lie. The truth is that Bigfoot gave me a clean second to run, gave it to me on purpose, with Danny still alive back there in the dark, and I took it. I ran while my best friend was still making sounds, and I did not go back. And the reason I can finally see what Bigfoot did to us that night is that I can finally see it needed me to do exactly that. It let Danny be the price so that I would run, because a man who runs will climb 20 miles of mountain in the dark on his own 2 legs, and a man it simply grabbed would be nothing but dead weight to haul. Bigfoot did not chase me all night. It recruited me. My own will to live was the leash it walked me on. Bigfoot built the whole night out of the one thing it knew a cornered person would always do, which is choose himself, and there is no version of me that stayed at that creek, and it knew there was not. The same way it knew the road home, I would climb toward at dawn. I did not outsmart it, and I did not get brave. I did the exact thing it was counting on, start to finish, and so has every person whose gear is on that ridge. The top of that climb was a bald ridge, a long, open spine of broken rock, standing above the timber with the whole dark divide falling away gray on every side. And as the light came up enough to see by, I saw what lay scattered across it, and my legs stopped working under me. Gear, packs, boots, not one set, not Danny's alone, but years of it, a lifetime of it, faded and rotted and half grown over with moss, a pack bleached nearly white by seasons of weather, boots with the leather curled hard as hooves, a rusted canteen, buckles and frames, and pale worked shapes I will not name, all of it settled into the rock and the low brush the whole length of that ridgeline. It was not a campsite, and it was not the boneyard where an animal drags a kill to feed. It was a collection. It was the top of the thing Bigfoot walked people to, and every one of them had arrived the exact way I had, on their own 2 feet in the last of the dark, believing the open ground ahead of them meant they had made it out. Some of it still had a rainfly lashed on, packed neat, ready for a trip home its owner had climbed all night believing in. I stopped counting because the number kept climbing. Dozens of them, a whole quiet history of people who had each been the only one left, each walking up here certain the sunrise meant they had won. And lying near the center of all of it, newer than the rest, its buckles still bright, was Danny's pack, carried up the mountain behind me in the night. Bigfoot had known where we were going before we ever started climbing. It had been known since the meadow. That is the moment the whole night finally told me the truth, standing on that ridge in the first raw light with Danny's pack at my feet. And that truth is the reason I came here to talk to you at all. Bigfoot never chases to catch because it does not need to. It takes one of you at the very start, quick and terrible, so that the rest of you will run, and then it simply walks behind the runner all night long, close enough to steer, patient enough to wait out every trick a terrified person has, and it lets you spend the last of yourself climbing toward the one thing you are certain will save you. The dark was never the danger. The dark was only the walk. The danger was the dawn, and the high, bright place the dawn finally shows you, because that ridge is where Bigfoot has been walking every person it has ever hunted, and not one of them understood it until they were already standing in the gear of everyone who came before. Behind me, without a whisper of sound, out of the last shadow at the edge of the timber, Bigfoot stepped up onto the open rock, unhurried, right on time, because I had arrived exactly where and exactly when the entire night was always built to end. It did not look at me. It looked at the ridge, at the gear, at the space near the middle where the next set would go, the way you look at a job almost done. In the clean morning light, there was nothing left between us but the open ground and the gear of everyone it had walked here before. And Bigfoot came out onto that rock like it was simply coming home. I did not so much decide to jump as feel my body decide for me. The far side of that ridge was not a slope. It was an edge, a long broken plunge down through cliff and scree to the white thread of the river, a very long way below. The same river I had spent the whole night trying to reach. The river Bigfoot had spent the whole night keeping between its teeth until the only way left to reach it was straight down. And with Bigfoot stepping toward me across that field of the dead, I chose the river. I threw myself off the edge of that ridge because the fall was the one ending Bigfoot did not own, the one place it had not walked me to on purpose, and I would sooner have died on my own terms in that gorge than be laid down gently among the others on my own 2 feet. The last thing I saw before I went over was Bigfoot reaching for me, unhurried even then, because in its whole experience there had never once been a reason to hurry at the top, and I think going off that edge was the only real surprise I ever gave it. I do not remember most of the fall. I remember the water hitting me like the front of a truck, and I remember being dragged and slammed and drowned and spat downstream for what must have been miles. And I remember crawling out onto gravel in full daylight, so broken I could not stand, alive off the mountain, the only person I have ever heard of that Bigfoot walked up to that ridge who did not stay. A logging crew found me 2 days later, 20 miles downriver, and I told the lie for the first time right there on the gravel bar, and I have gone on telling it ever since. I told them Bigfoot took Danny fast and that I got lucky. The truth is that I got chosen to run, and I ran, and it very nearly finished with me the same way it has finished with everyone whose boots are still up on that ridge waiting for the moss. So this is my confession, and it is also the only warning I have to give, because that ridge is still up there, and Bigfoot is still walking people to it, one entire night at a time, and every last one of them dies believing the same two things I believed. That the dark is the danger, that the dawn means they made it. If you are ever deep in a country like that, and something huge begins to walk behind you in the night and will not close the distance and will not let you turn downhill, do not run for the high ground. And whatever you do, do not wait for the light. The light is not the end of the night. The light is where Bigfoot has been walking you the whole time.